episode 2 of Different Spectrums.
Alright, let's do this.
You got your boy Yash, one of your hosts.
You got your boy Henry. Your boy CK.
You know, hey, next time, Henry, I'm gonna need a bit more smiling, a bit more energy, bro. What was that?
You got your boy Henry over
Let's
here,
go.
you know. The one and only, the baddest, you know.
But yeah, boys, I'll just simply start off. It's a long weekend, last weekend, it was a long weekend. It's Anzac Day today, so what are we saying? Like, what's going on?
Well, actually, we'll start with you.
Start with me.
Then we'll circle back this way.
I'd see, had a party at mine a couple of nights ago. Parents are out of town, so I was like, take this as full opportunity, just do my thing. Have a couple of people over, celebrate some birthdays and a bit of good vibes. And yeah, it's about it for now. And then here we are. We spoke last minute plans to get the podcast going, and now that we're here, we've got our topics. I think we've got our topics anyway. A couple of things which I think, the audience will appreciate and, kind of relate to us on a personal level at least anyway. And we'll see how you go. What about you, Henry? What are you saying?
What am I saying? Just been, just been living life. Got a gig on the 7th of May.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Music, man. I got a half an hour set.
Yeah. Where at? Where at?
Just down in Abbotsford at the Collingwood Arts.
So is there like free tickets for us or what's going on?
It's open. It's open.
Yeah.
Man.
Open?
I say
God damn.
Yeah, so...
You getting paid?
Yeah.
The way you thought about that.
Of course I'm getting paid.
You know what it is, yeah?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about this though? I think we're at that age, we were all like 23, 24, 22, around that age. I think every task or every job that we're asked to do, we need to get the money. We need to get paid now. It's no longer, I'm just going to do it for free. But like, where do you guys stand on that now?
I mean, unless it's a passion project, like say it's something that you're doing for your local neighborhood or your community,
Perhaps.
and it's just literally purely passion. Okay, in that case,
That's
I
different.
can-
Would that be classed more as, as you mentioned, like a passion project, or just more? Is that just like a hobby? Because hobbies are different to, say, you're doing a job, right? So for me, right, say if I was asked to go play a football game, and just imagine that wasn't a hobby, but it's just my job. I'm like, oh, cool. Can you fill in for me, in this XYZ team? Yeah. And then if I'm saying, cool, pay me and I'll play it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna just do it for free because my time is now I'm finding more that so my time's more valuable.
Yeah.
So like, what do you guys reckon about that?
I think for me, that comes down to the requirements of the project. So like in my case, I love making films, and I know that there are tons of creatives I work with, and sometimes I might not formally pay them for a project, or maybe if they need me on a shoot, they may not pay me for a project. But then what we end up doing is we give each other where either of us are lacking. So if I need talent, they're on board. If they need like cinematographer or a director, I'm on board as well. But usually those projects are much more smaller in scope. They're not something that would consume a large breadth of time, because I think we're at the stage where like we have rent to pay, we got bills, that already begins. You got fines.
What
Fines.
do you got fines for?
$4,000 worth.
What?
Yeah.
$4,000 worth.
You guys 4,000. What the hell have you been doing?
And it keeps climbing.
Keeps climbing, brother.
Is that why you haven't been able to drive recently?
Yeah. It was registration, but Kyle, you were saying no.
Yeah, so like
Why is this guy here, bro? Oh yeah, go on.
yeah, so if a project is small enough that it can be tackled immediately, like I'm willing to forego a couple of monetary terms, but that's if I see the potential that this project could bring. Like if I'm adding it to my portfolio of projects, which is actually kind of weird because sometimes whenever you see a music video, say on YouTube, then you see sometimes there's an additional tag and it says director's cut. And you might get confused on like what that actually means. So sometimes a production house or like a record label will look towards the creative part of their label to fetch a director. They get the director on board and then they actually make the content. The problem is sometimes the vision that the director has is probably overshadowed by the requirements of the studio. Sometimes they'll say, we want our artists to be like this, look like this, feel like this. And what's weird is they pick the director for his specific vision,
Yeah.
but then they end up going to make something completely different. And then the director ends up putting his own director's cut, and another music record label finds that director's cut, and they're like,
Right.
this looks so authentic, this looks so genuine. We would love to have you on board, you know? It's those type of situations where I'm like, okay, you gotta pay me now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You gotta pay me.
Like
now.
this, that wasn't the original discussed topic. Like you made all these changes, you made all of like, hey, come on now, like you better pay me for this, otherwise I ain't doing it. Like it's not what I agreed upon. This is not worth my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. And it comes down to like that. When it comes to like a lot of jobs, like when you were, was that the engineering firm that you're working at? Yeah.
Yeah.
What-
Dot company.
How did you find that? You're working at a joint now as well, aren't you?
I am, yeah. So currently, I'm working as a back-end engineer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
God damn.
Big one.
So you, what, you're earning 6 digits or what's going on?
I wouldn't
He's
touch
like-
that. I wouldn't touch that. I wouldn't touch that.
That's all on the wraps.
I wouldn't touch that.
I'm
But,
saying
yeah.
though, the clothes that he's wearing and everything since he got this job is very different.
This is Melbourne. This is creatives. These are creatives from Melbourne.
That's very, very, very different. Remember when he used to wear all the time the same jacket, the same
Yeah.
white tee?
Mom was looking like Sherlock Holmes.
Now
Bro.
he's wearing, you know, Versace pants. He's wearing a model face. He's got everything.
These are H&M fans. Let's just clarify.
By the way,
Don't
a quick
listen.
shout out-
Don't listen to this man right here. He ain't
a
speaking
quick
truth.
shout out to all the creators out there.
Yeah.
Here we got the Senpai apparel on, and then we've got the Immortal Fate.
Immortal Fate.
Absolutely.
That was from the Ego Expo.
100%.
And this was our boy
great.
Senpai.
He,
Senpai Tricks. He was like,
Just shout out to him, bro. Like the way he set up his booth at
the
Ego.
Yeah.
It was very welcoming to any, like, obviously people who don't know the scene that well,
Yeah.
but got everyone to do their own, prints as well, like using, I don't know what the machine's called, but, doing all of that. And yeah, it was just very welcoming, very outgoing, and yeah, just seemed like a very friendly guy. And say a big shout out to him, and that's why my
Even
boys
the,
rapping.
customer service of the customer service
Yeah,
of the
of the event, yeah, you got something.
So,
And then you're repping, tell me about it.
Yeah, so Immortal Fate, creators from Melbourne, Ego Expo was the place where I met them at. They have an array of amazing clothing, especially like with the quality. This dude spent like months, even not
Was
making any
is
money.
it Ronnie or Ron it? I
The
forgot.
name doesn't come to mind immediately.
Yeah. I
But
think it's Ronnie, yeah.
But I will speak on like the work ethic, like what it takes to create like such clothing, like the amount of losses that you have to go through in order to see.
I think
like,
clothing, because it's such a saturated market.
heavily.
Yeah.
Like, it's a heavily saturated market. But then comes this, the supply, the demand, and everything. But to really make it there, it is not easy. It is hard work, and I think to anyone that has the gall to go try it and really do it, and I think that's why everyone that entered their brands in that Ego. I was lucky enough to represent a few brands that Ego walking down the runway. So
See you with the
We
jacket.
Got to
got
see
to
it,
see
yeah.
this random on the
come
wall.
on now,
man.
you know what I'm saying. But yes, I think that was very, very, very awesome to see. And kind of eye-opening for me. Like, I had a lot of friends who were in the creative scene, obviously, like you two, for example. Whereas I was just friends with the friends who were in the creative scene. So I wasn't,
You had mutual contact.
I had mutual contacts, but I wasn't really in it. And then once I did it because of one of my mates who shared the post to just go try out.
Yeah.
And I think when I went to go try out, it was just like, it's a brand new experience. I'm ready to try new things. And I didn't actually think I was going to get it. I was like, let me just go get some experience, maybe meet some new people, and made some cool friends.
Yeah.
Awesome experience. Had everyone out there to watch me. It was awesome, and I think that kind of brings me to my next thing as well, right? I come from, obviously, I come from an Indian background. So I think, anyone who's watching, it doesn't have to be Indian. It can, Asian, African, South African, South American, whatever. It can be whatever culture, whatever. We have the parental pressures of us. At least I'm speaking on my behalf right now. You guys can chime in. But the parental pressures to do, study this, study that, go there, do this.
Yeah.
And because of that reason, I did physio.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with physio.
Yeah.
It's cool. It interests me because I love football. Obviously,
Yeah.
you know, I'm a stout
Yeah.
Liverpool supporter, so shout out Liverpool fans.
Yeah.
But because of that, I was like, okay, it's interesting,
Yeah.
but I think I only did it then, you know, just because my parents were on me and, like, you know, family and, like, kind of what my culture and society here in Melbourne or even just anywhere kind of dictates, like, you should do this and that. So, you know, I went into it reluctantly, but it was cool. Well, nothing against the actual degree or the subjects or anything, but I think the kind of realization for me was when I'm 45, 50, I ain't trying to look back. And all I did was something that I never wanted to do in the beginning. So now I've, like, I think you boys can, you know, at least vouch for me
Yeah.
in saying I've branched out and I've started trying so many different things. And I think that's the biggest thing. And, like, one example, just Ego Expo.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't no model. Like, I ain't nothing right now.
Yeah.
But so let me try this out.
I
Why
wouldn't
not?
be too certain about that.
Yeah.
Pause.
As long as you pass the vibe checks.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm all about the vibes right now.
Yeah,
So that's it.
yeah.
Just doing my thing. So I think, like, where do you guys stand on just going after, like, you know, growing up with what we faced or
Yeah.
what we're doing now?
You know, rest in peace. Virgil Abloh comes to mind. There was a specific interview he had where he recounts how he came to America and how it was instilled in him to pursue a field in either engineering, medicine, or law, right? And he decided to get a degree for a very specific reason, which was a thank you note to his parents for, you know, bringing him to America, you know, because I think there's a huge difference from, like, say, third world countries and first world countries. That's very eminent, right?
Oh, yeah.
And also to apply context to that, a lot of the times, even from my parent who came here, they were immigrants as well. So they come with the mentality of where they're coming from,
Yeah.
which is
100%.
like we're at the second stage of economic development,
Oh, yeah.
which happens to be industrialization.
Like-
So that means, like, if we're to set up industries or be innovative, we need specific minds. Those minds usually are engineers, doctors, lawyers, business people. So I think they come with that mentality as well. It's kind of ingrained into them. I think it was a certain teacher who actually told me this, but he was like, Carl, even though you go and pursue engineering, it's still us HRs who are going to hire you to work at the firm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like you still do need other professions and other industries to function. It's just that the context really matters, because I don't think, in my case, my immigrant parent got sat down and walked through what they had been through. Like, you're coming from a country that is in the second stage of economic development. Right now, our country is in the 5th stage of economic development.
Right.
It's okay for you to relax. It's okay for you to pursue this apart from that.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the children get the full breath.
You
know what I'm saying?
Like,
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. Like,
Yeah.
because, like, all my parents know is just work. You know, that's, which is nothing wrong with it. Like, if that's what you want to do, go for your life. But I think, but, like, here's where the issues come now. Granted, this may not be with me, but obviously, you know, being around a lot of people, obviously everyone around our age, you know, at least if you're more of come from an ethnic background, I've noticed that even if their parents have been here for 20, 25 years, they still haven't reformed to the way, what the reality is here. They're still there, and I accept they grew up in very different circumstances and stuff. But you've spent half your life here now. You've had your children. They've gotten to, you know, a mature age, our age. At what point is it just, all right, like,
It's time to be flexible.
it's time to be flexible, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
it's like any arguments if I've ever had with my parents, yeah. Yeah, before I say a word, they're like, oh yeah, no, you tell us, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell them. and then it's all fucked.
Yeah.
I'm like my dad, yeah, he's been, so, like, because, like, my parents moved to New Zealand first in the 1990s. They've been out of India for a long time.
Okay.
So 30 years now, like more than half their lives they've been, and I'm just like, at what point do you guys just realize what the reality is here? Like you work with like all your fellow countrymen here, Australians, Americans, New Zealand people, whatever.
Yeah.
At what point is like, okay, yeah, fair enough. Like they hear their stories of like, oh yeah, my child's done this, freedom, this and that.
100%.
I'm not saying you have to give us 100% freedom, but why don't you let us explore our options?
Yeah, I feel like probably he would be the best person to answer that because that feels like a very specific question, and then he can answer.
That's what I'm saying. I was just like,
It's hard bringing it up though.
Yeah. Like, what about you? Like, any conversations with family or anything? Like...
No, my dad gave up a long time. My dad gave up a long time ago. Yeah. So initially, what he wanted, because at the time he was a doctor himself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right. He's a doctor.
He was a doctor, and then he went to aviation, and then he did some other fields.
This guy was in the top tier of jobs, bro.
So now with him, like when we first came to Australia, his vision was that one day I would be working. I believe he was like Carl said, either in engineering, as a doctor, or some other shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My brother was kind of following along those.
Course.
Those.
How old your brother?
My brother's 24.
Okay. Yeah.
It's around 24.
Yeah.
I believe. Right. So he was studying biomedicine, and then I don't know why he left, but I think it was some mistake with the exam about him missing the final exam. I can't be fucked going back. But for me, it was more that early on in my childhood, I was such a defiant little guy, bro. Like, I would go to school, I would come back, I wouldn't even be sitting there doing my homework. I didn't care. I would just cop the ass whoopings.
Do you find that in like our cultures right now, obviously we're from different continents, but I think fundamentally the way we're all raised, we've got similarities, right? Do you reckon because of the way we were raised in our cultures, we're raised and we turn out to be the most rebellious, or where things can go wrong, or we just completely rebel against our parents?
In my case, I'll speak to me. Like, say, I was born here, and I was raised here.
Yeah.
The thing is, you get socialized with the people that you're around. So say, for instance, even though my parent is coming from someplace completely different, vastly different, the cultural context matters. Like, you're raised around Aussie kids. So you end up acquiring their taste and their preferences. I think now when you go home, those preferences get challenged. You know what I'm saying? Coming from where their parents are coming from. So it's this constant, what do you call it? Like, you become too flexible, or you become too rigid. It's like you exist on either of those spectrums, right? So one person, as Henry said, Henry would be like, I love this new place that I'm in. I don't want to conform, right? There can be that mentality. You know what I'm saying? And then there's the mentality of like, okay, I see where you're coming from, and this is where I'm at. How can we meet in the middle? But that's usually too at the extreme, because now you end up doing too much, right? You end up doing too much to appease two different groups of people.
Yeah. So,
I think, I'm going to get a little bit more ticky here, right? Now, I was born in New Zealand, and then I moved here when I was 4. So, like, obviously, going up around, basically, everyone from Australia. But I did face racism, going personally anyway. So, like, and the schools I went to, I was just the only brown guy. Yeah. And then when I got to high school, it was just me and my mate Rish. We were the only brown guys ever. I was school captain as well, which was I still work for that, which is cool. But like, I think because of the racism that I faced, coming back home, I just kind of conformed, with my family and stuff. Now I'm not the most, communicative with my family and anything like that, but it was just more, watching the movies, just sitting and talking with them and everything like that. So that's what I'm more used to. And that's what I'm used to seeing. Yes, I see how Australians and stuff are raised and this and that, but because I felt secluded earlier on in my life, I kind of just like, okay, maybe this is the way to be. Yeah. And I think, like, I don't know about you guys anyway, but because of that, I was just like, cool, I'm gonna keep doing that conform to them. And when I finished, when I went into year 12, it was the most stressy year of my life. I look back, and year 12 ain't shit now.
Yeah.
Like, it's the most, like, the easiest thing I can think of, right? And if I could do year 12 as the next year, I'd be laughing. But back then, the mental pressures of, like, oh, God. Like, I don't know if I feel accepted in this society, you know, being a person of color. But then I don't want to be doing stuff that I don't want to do. I was caught, you know, between a rock and a hard place, essentially. I was just like, where do I go? What do I do? And I ended up just, succumbing to, you know, the societal pressures of my cultural background. And once I did that, it was just, I did it. I don't regret doing it. It was just, if I had another option, I would have taken it. Like, my brother wanted to be a soccer player growing up. But, you know, being first generation migrants, my parents aren't gonna... For us, if we were to join our kids in sport, we know there's a potential, right? You know, you join our kids in soccer, tennis, whatever. You're like, oh shit, you know, something could happen. The thought of my parents joining us in football or cricket or anything, they'll get a heart attack. Like, no, this fella's what happens to him. It's done out here.
Have you ever asked your parents to come to one of your games?
No.
I asked my dad one time to come to one of my games. He gave me one of the... He gave me a look, bro. He gave me a look. A set of looks. Like,
it's not up for discussion.
Bro, it's not up for discussion. But the good thing is that he did come to it. He did end up coming. And he watched for like 5 minutes and went back home.
I saw this meme. I saw this meme, and it was about how, like, say, like, kids were saying, like, their parents weren't there for them, you know, the entire time. But what's weird about it, their parent was working, like, say, 18 to 20 hours a day. That's stress, just exaggerating it. But the core truth is, like, they're working so much to fund everything to the point where they miss out on the simple things.
Do you reckon, as a result of, you know, us being children of first-gen migrants, you know, that we're just the victims of that? Like, nothing could have been done to change the reality of what... For them, they were doing all that they can to give us a better life. I'm forever thankful that, you know, I wasn't raised in, you know, harder situations, you know. You know, I have a New Zealand and Australian citizenship. I'm laughing. I can go anywhere in the world and I'm chill, right? Don't have to go through the complications of getting citizenship, permanent residence, all of that, you know. I'm so thankful for that. But on the flip side, you know, mentally and emotionally, we were cut off, or a lot of people have been cut off. And do you reckon we're just the victims of what the reality is? Like, I think it's not our parents' fault. It's just...
if your parent or parents are living in survival mode, it's kind of like fight or flight mode. So that emotional connection is kind of cut off in order to sustain life, because you need to make rapid decisions. And those decisions usually have to kind of sustain you or your immediate family. I think probably this is maybe where things like therapy could come in, you know, maybe family counseling, or like maybe if it's not formal counseling, it's like things that involve some therapeutic element to it.
Maybe add to that overseas families as well, like you know how now you have to
in my case, like I have family overseas, you know, and the responsibilities end up stacking up, you know, and I think my story is a bit much more harder to kind of unpack, just because even though I was born here, I did spend like around 7 years back in Africa. So I went there for part of my primary till part after.
For a second, Tell the audience where you're from in Africa.
I am from Uganda.
Where are you from?
Same joint, man.
I guess one was something different.
What do you think I was? West African? I get a lot of people confusing me. They're like, you're West African. West African where? West African where? Oh, you're Nigerian. I'm Ugandan.
So,
Idi Amin
so you were here first and then went back to Uganda?
I was born here.
Yes.
Then I went to study in Africa. It was a very seminal point in my life where I kind of learned where my parents' mindsets were coming from, their perspective on life. Because over there, it was so cutthroat.
Oh yeah.
Over here, this might sound perplexing, but I was in grade 4 and I could barely do the numerical timetables, right? It was so chill. But then when I went over there, like, what was funny about it was everyone was working so hard to achieve bare minimum. Whereas over here, to achieve bare minimum, you didn't have to academically propel yourself.
I definitely agree with that. I have a cousin in India, right? Now we would go there like every 2 years essentially, right? I would see him like going to the school, the kind of stuff that they have to do, like the type of hours they have to put in. And I'm like, bro, you're in grade 4. What's going on? Like when I was in grade 4, I was doing sweet fuck all, bro. Like when I got homework, I'd leave it till the next morning, copy one of my friends' homework just before class, and then pass it away. And then that's the reality here, at least in primary schooling. But like, I'm looking over there in those countries and stuff, right? As you said, they have to work so hard to achieve the bare minimum. I'm like,
but that brings into what I was talking about earlier. That's the industrial age. Like Australia, like around 50 to 60 years ago, their kids most likely were doing the same thing. So you can see how far back in time they're living. You understand me? So that's the mentality. You can get lost in time.
I think as well, like you got to think about the timeline of a country as well, and there's so much to consider. Like we can go so deep into it, it's gonna get lost. And like India was under British rule for a lot of years, and then I think it was like 1950. I could be wrong, somewhere around then in August 15. I remember the date. It's not the year. They got independence from the British. Now, we can say that 60, 65 years ago.
But that's such a short.
But that's such a short time, exactly. Everything was shattered. The foundations of a country was rattled. How it takes a long time for it to recover. And then you can look at the socioeconomic differences from the top to the bottom. Like the top 1 or 2% of India owns like 85% of the wealth. Like it's that fucked kind of situation, a difference. And so you see, and there's like 1.5 billion people. I'm like, there's too many fucking people. And it just keeps going and going. And everyone, as you said, has to fight and study like crazy to be the bare minimum. Like, whereas here, in the land of 21 million people, 25 million, sorry, what do we got to worry about exactly? They live in developed countries, developed everything, government,
healthcare.
Our healthcare here is very underrated. It's amazing.
You could survive off Central.
Bro, honestly.
You got people out there, what is it, saying shit like, like people in Melbourne, they're like, I ain't got nothing, I came from nothing, I had to do it on my own, I had to sell drugs and all this shit, blah, 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 some memes. And then, bruv, you had Centrelink, most likely.
I think that's the reality. Like, I'm not knocking it. Some people may have a hard life, but when you're from other countries, where the hard life that's hard life. It's a privilege to say you have a hard life here almost, if you compare it.
Apparently living in the flats over here is like somebody else's dream. Like for those overseas, like in Kenya.
Like we, and the Kenyan guy came studying from overseas. I was living in these flats, and she's showing me some photos. Very very small flat. Like I'm coming from a privileged mindset. I know I would struggle there because I've never been in a space that small. But for him, he's like, oh, this is amazing. I love it so much. This is so cool to have this room to myself. And I'm just like, the perspectives, so crazy. Like when you think about, what people grow up with, and what people are thankful for. And I think, again, that comes back to everything. It's like a vicious cycle. But I think with our generation, we're lucky enough that I think we're the ones that's going to break the chains.
Hopefully.
Like our kids are going to experience a very different upbringing to what we experienced. Like my kids can come to me like, I want to try this. Cool. Go try it. Like what am I gonna say? It's your life, be happy. And then
I think that's also changing internationally as well. What is it, that mindset? It's like everybody's kind of like shifting away from that because us with development and stuff like like other other countries and continents and stuff developing a bit more. Like in Africa, you got so much development happening. That what is it now? It's like
you guys tell me, right? Because you guys have a better perspective. The way that the media portrays, Africa to be and shit. Obviously, it's furthest from the truth. I'm sure of it, but I wouldn't have the knowledge as I'm not from there. I can only read about it, but what now? I don't know. You can speak to Uganda. You can speak to whatever. Like, what is the reality there? Like, as of it is presently. Like, what? Like, in terms of educational, society, governments, like, whatever.
Yeah, I'll speak from where I think the problem arises, which is you bring in a large group of immigrants to a country from Africa who have probably stayed in refugee camps, right?
Yeah.
Then the culture shock, first of all, that's happening, right? The psychological evolution that they must grow into, that's something that can be startling. It's something that needs to be guided. Talking from my point of view, my family was guided. So say, for example, educational programs and stuff like that. Sports activities, socializations with different groups to kind of fit within the larger ecosystem of Australia. On that front, I'm very thankful. However, I've seen it still go the other way. I've seen it still go a point where even though you do provide the services, the youth can still go the other way. So maybe there's more work that needs to be done on that to target that specific issue where the youth still go another way instead of the right way. But those are my brief thoughts on it. I think I need to research a bit more information on it.
I think
that's specifically say from what I've seen with the Ugandan community.
I think bringing it back to Melbourne, the creative scene was speaking about before, these brands and stuff, right? Why I'm appreciating the creative scene here so much is for those who don't know, the creative scene here is very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very expansive. It's very inclusive. Yeah. You see heaps of different cultures and stuff, from brown to black to white to Asian, whatever. Everyone.
Our generation is, I think, the most inclusive. Our generation is the most inclusive.
And I think we're here doing this podcast as a result of everything that that's done prior to us, and what we want to do for the next people coming along as well. And I think just doing that's allowed us to kind of really dive into it and really do it. So I think huge shout out to the Melbourne creative scene. I don't know what Sydney and them places are like.
I have a lot to thank in terms of the Melbourne creative scene. Whenever I did a project, creatives were always down to help.
Yeah.
Even when it came to say doing a music video, the amount of talent that just came on board to just even be there. I think the energy is kind of the jumping off point. When even you remember the first day we did say Benji's music video.
Yeah.
You were there. You were just for the vibes. You were just kicking it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Henry was there for the vibes as well. And then they end up participating. Sometimes they even in the music video. And I think that's where a lot of growth happens.
I think I've also noticed a lot of people showed love. It's just now, Benji's obviously, you two are boys with Benji. I know Benji at all. But, when he released Banana Love, I'm sharing it and sending him a message, just to show him, bro, I'm happy for you. Let me share this. Yeah. It may not do much. Yeah. But
at least
I'm trying it.
I think
have you guys noticed? Yeah.
I think it does that.
I've noticed. Yeah. I've had friends and stuff. So-called friends who've shared nothing, said nothing, not a congratulations, even family sometimes. I'll be doing something, not a word, not a peep.
Yeah, but then you get this.
It'd be
the closest people to you.
That's it, bro.
Like the saying, what is it? The
unbelievable.
A stranger could be your biggest. You could supporter? Be your biggest supporter.
Yeah,
right, and that's extremely true. What is it in the music scene and stuff? It's we're definitely getting much more love. We're definitely more kind of supporting our own.
Just imagine life without music. You remember, our experiences of Gardener Beats aren't there. Our memories at Watermelon Sundays aren't there.
Bro, we
We need that music. It's not just music. I'm just saying, just like
But we need more locals. So.
that's what I'm saying, bro.
We need more locally made
Australia needs some love
Yeah.
for music.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So we get Hendrix Soul.
Which is where I was heading
doing
with
this
that.
thing.
Yeah, like what I was saying was, like normally what other people are going for the UK scene or
Yeah.
America or something, or is playing those.
Get me
tunes
wrong.
now.
Like for me, like
Yeah.
I'm not that much in love with the American scene anymore.
Mm.
I got mad love for the UK scene, but there's that gap in the market here. Why is the Australian scene not going up? Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There's artists like, was it Kid Laroi?
Paneo.
Yeah, there you go. You know, they,
What about Benji?
That's what I'm saying.
Everybody, and that's what's happening
That's
right
what I'm
now.
saying. You
That's
just gotta do it.
We're
It's-
supporting each other now.
There's a little bubble happening.
Mm.
It's just ready to burst. So I think we gotta exploit that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. I think we need more different types of creatives. I think that would really propel things forward because there are very few, like, say, videographers.
Yeah.
You know, they're very
From
few.
Melbourne?
From Melbourne, yeah. From Melbourne.
There's videographers. It's just
I mean,
more...
the thing is, like, there's one guy who's doing multiple things,
Yeah.
right? So he's the director, he's the editor.
Similar
he's-
role as you.
Yeah, 100%. So, like, if we could have, like, a community where, like, there's, like, editors on staff, like, cinematographers on staff, you know, like, directors on staff, and then you have these different individuals working hand in hand with each other, like, and they're, like, the best at what they do.
Yeah.
That would add so much weight to the music scene, because you run into a situation where, like, you've created this epic thing. It could be music, it could be a music video, but then there's no marketing. You know, you know, and then if only you had someone who was very good at marketing, like, then it would take your stuff to the next level. So, like, what I'm saying is, like, just get a dude who's super legit at content creation, super legit at holding a camera, super legit at
Like, that's
moving
why
your vision
I was
forward.
listening to you, my mate Mads, you know, MDS Media, you know, started new, but he's doing his thing, you know, creating websites. He's just doing his thing, but he's very good and he just wants to get himself out there. I'm like, bro, like, you know, he's a mate of mine and obviously you guys are my boys. And I'm just like, bro, just come for a collab.
Yeah.
Like, you know, get yourself out there. Like, doesn't mean just because, you know, I'm not saying about him, I'm saying just generally, if you're a cameraman or a photographer who hasn't done a lot of projects, but you want to try, bro, link up. Like,
Oh yeah.
hey, how are you gonna learn
Yeah.
if you don't come? Like, let me take.
Take a chance.
That's why I brought him to.
Branch out.
That's why I brought him to the music
Yeah,
video.
to the shoot that we
Yeah,
did.
I'm like,
Yeah,
bro,
yeah.
just come see what they do, get some photos, you know, make you know, network.
Yeah.
It's all cool.
100%.
I ain't a videographer, nor am I a photographer. That ain't
Yeah.
my scene. Like, that's not what I do.
Yeah, but you rose to the occasion.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. You,
I'll always ride for, you know, ones that I know and people who need help. Like, it just, I think that's the most valuable thing. Like back in the day when I was like, you know, 18, 19, I had like a selfish mindset. I can't wait for me to make it to the top, just me. I can't wait to get my cars, like, you know, get my house.
yeah.
But now, bro, my vision is I want the people around me, along with me, obviously, to be going up.
Yeah.
Bro, 10 years' time, you were talking about, you know, what life's going to be like in 10 years and stuff, but you were going on about relationships.
Yeah.
A topic for another episode. But 10 years' time, I want all of us, you know, to be achieving high, nice cars, you know, doing, you know, going after our goals and you're really achieving it.
Even achieving
Imagine
success.
sitting down here in like 10 years' time, reflecting. We said this now, 10 years later, look where we are.